the minute I heard George Bush say, we're going to root out those evildoers and get revenge, I was like, systems problem. This is going to take 50 years. I don't want to be around for this. This is going to be ugly, and it's not my thing. So, and I had little kids. And so I moved to Nelson with my husband, and there's quite a bit in this story. So we're recording, right? We might as well dive in. There's it was an incredible moment because we moved there. We started, sort of building a life right there on the lake, and it's a cute little hippie town. You've been there, and then we sort of got caught in immigration limbo, and we got caught there for a few years. And I can't say we were in a giant rush to sort it out, because limbo is kind of an interesting place to be in. In that moment, it was okay, because the stakes weren't as high as they are right now, and we were all together, and so there wasn't we weren't in danger. But what we did have is the opportunity to pull our kids out of school, and I was really sensitive to them being in the States in that moment, because every single I don't know where you guys were in that moment, but every single conversation was deep soaked in a kind of cynicism that it was very heavy. And for little children, all they heard adults talk about was war. Every coffee date, every pickup at the kindergarten, everything was war. And so it was a lot. So anyway, we moved to Canada, and when we did that, we pulled them out of school. And I had always wanted to do that. My father pulled me out of school. And so then it was an opportunity, because, you have to repeat your own childhood. Like, no matter, you might be noticing that right about now, no matter how hard you try to do it differently, there's things that just they come through. So we did that, and we took them down to South America and traveled with the children. They were, I think, 7 and 9 at that time. And I got to give them an education in systems.
Cool.
When they were really little. And so that whatever they built on from there, they would have that. And so I got to, we didn't have any homeschool curriculum. We made up our own. And we did an hour of reading and chose some great books, and an hour of writing, and we did some math together. And we traveled, and we all went to a Spanish class, Intro to Spanish, with Mommy, Daddy, and the 2 kids, all at the same level. And so we had when I talk about mutual learning across generations, that was the moment when we really were mutually, we were learning together, but really learning differently. There were things that each of us were had aptitudes for, and things that we didn't. But my kids got to see me learning at the same time that I was suddenly their teacher. And that was a really interesting relationship shifter. And I kind of had no idea at the time how profound it was. I wish I had actually, done some recording of it, but I didn't. And then we tried to put them back in school, and they were 3 years ahead 3 months later. We couldn't put them back in because they got so, we weren't supercharging them. I was not one of those parents who was like, I want my children to be little Einsteins. No, we were just actually bailing on the system, trying to get parallel, and accidentally got really ahead.
I'd imagine that would be a little scary too, to do, knowing that there are some ways within the system that they might fall behind. But I would imagine you would discover over time that that would actually be an asset to their resume when they go to look for jobs or do whatever they want within the system, because they suddenly stand out compared to everyone else.
Yeah, and like let's just look at that sentence that you just put together and how complex that is. Because you guys are parents now, and you might have thought that you were going to interview me tonight, but I had my own plan here. uh, I, because I mean, how do we do this? Right? As parents, we're talking about systems change. This is such an important nut. The thing is in the intergenerational expectations, the communications, the dreaming, the visioning, the tiny signaling that goes on, right? So how do you prepare your children to not fail in the existing system, but to be able to create a new system and to not have any attachment to the existing system because it's shifting under their feet?
Mm-hmm.
Yours is very small right now. Mine are, I mean, I've got one, marching the streets of San Francisco, and one here saying, what am I supposed to do now? So, and then lots of other ones in between thinking, they're Swedish, so they have a different set of sensibilities around this. But there's a lot in that question you just asked about, am I afraid that they won't have a place in the criteria that the systems of the existing institutions will evaluate them on? Do I protect them from being evaluated in ways that will shut them out, isolate them? Or do I, just as I was saying, just get parallel? It's a big question. So, but the thing is, this is that I had been taken out of school. My dad took me out of school. He got diagnosed with lung cancer when I was, I think, about 9. And they only gave him a few weeks or months to live. And as it turned out, he lived 3 more years. And during that time, I was sent to school in this school in the Big Sur coastline. And the ride there was like, ugh, teeny tiny windy little roads on a bus for an hour every day. And my dad was dying, and anyway, I would go to school and just vomit. And so whether it was emotional or physical or both, and plus the way they were teaching me that the world was put together was in complete opposition to the way that I was learning at home that the world was put together. So there was this schism, and I preferred one version much over the other. And so eventually my dad was like, forget it, let's just don't send her. And so we did whatever. It wasn't homeschooling then, because it wasn't a thing. There was no thing about that. So somehow we got permission. I don't really know how we did it, but and he didn't have a curriculum for me. I wrote little papers for him about, like, how to think in base 5 when I was 10. And he asked me questions, and there were things I didn't know I wasn't supposed to know. And we played with ideas, and we wrote poetry, and got up in the middle of the night and studied the stars, and we traveled, and I went to all of his seminars, and a couple of years went by, and then after he died, I went back into school, and they tested me. And to your point, my spelling was like absolute crap. But my math skills were off the charts. My comprehension skills were super high. My capacity for repeating information was very low. My capacity for generating and connecting things was super high. So if they had actually just put me as a freshman in university at the age of whatever I was then, 13, it would have been much better. But they didn't. They put me in 7th grade and or 8th grade. Was it 8th grade? And it was a nightmare. It was some kind of like horror story that it was just awful. And I never got above a C in math again. Loss. Huge loss. So, but I had the model. It was in there. So then when I had my own kids, I knew that I had gotten so much out of that and that it was possible. That's the big thing, is that it's possible, because that fear that you're talking about there was definitely mitigated by having been through it myself and seen my father do it. And he wasn't anxious about it. He wasn't thinking, oh, I hope she doesn't lose, I hope she doesn't fall behind. You know, there was none of that. And there was also, he never said, this is so interesting. He never said one word to me about my future. He never said, when you grow up and get married, or when you go to college, or when you, not one word. And I didn't realize that until I was an adult. And then I suddenly realized that he had never said one thing about what he envisioned for my future. And what a profound gift that is.
Yeah, he let you choose your own.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's like, you know how careful you have to be to not fall into those scripts around what university you go to or what partnership you have, or, you know, and that whole projection of, oh, aren't you getting big? And, you know, the whole thing around what do you want to be when you grow up is an epistemological, some sort of weird epistemological future scripting that invites you to see yourself in the system that's existing now, but not to think of, not to be generative of just what are the pathways that are right here in front of you that you're tending. And so for me, especially in this moment, that's really important, that we don't go future skipping into some idea of what a future society could look like, because our ideas are totally contaminated by the system that we're in. And the only thing that's going to make those future possibilities possible is the tending the very minute relationships of the moment.
The brand new Future Thinkers members portal is now live. Develop your sovereignty and self-knowledge with our in-depth courses, get access to our weekly sense-making calls, join the Q&As with past podcast guests, and much more. Become a Future Thinkers member today at futurethinkers.org/members. Enter the Future Thinkers giveaway and win our brand new community membership, including in-depth courses, private calls, and more, as well as a supply of Qualia, a complete cognitive upgrade for your brain. To enter the contest, simply go to futurethinkers.org/giveaway and sign up for our mailing list to instantly get our 50-page guide on how to adapt to the future. There are many ways to increase your chances of winning. Enter the competition today.